You're watching Poland Daily Business, and tonight we'll talk to Piotr Arak, Polish Economical Institute. So welcome to this show.
Hello.
We spoke previously about the great export surplus that Poland has. It's probably biggest ever. But the question is it noted internationally? Because the new exporter makes definitely less space for other exporters. And one more question that I like to ask you is that there are reports that are pointing out that the Republic of Korea and Japan are investing heavily in the countries of Central Europe, namely V4, Poland, Czech Republic, Slovakia, Hungary, maybe Hungary a bit less. And how do you explain that? Why this particular piece of Europe is considered favorable for investment from the Far East?
Yeah, first off, it's in 2020 and before in 2019, Poland was a record breaker in terms of greenfield investments, which were outlined by many international organizations, international corporations. And but probably in 2020, we're going to have 4 or 5 times the value of investments created in the other V4 countries in Poland. So Poland was attracting much more capital than our partners in the region. The reason for that is the Japanese, Korean, and also other Asian countries are pretty much interested in what is going on in our market. And so the economic outlook of Poland, which is in the next couple of years quite optimistic, is noticed in Asia. And they see Poland as an interesting market which has a pretty much higher value creation possibility than Western Europe. And with the strict cooperation with in the triangle between the United States, European Union, Poland in that matter, and for example, Japan, Korea, they see it as a business opportunity against Chinese capital and Chinese investments, which are also present in our region. And Poland, as we all know, is not that optimistic about Chinese investments because of the way the Chinese companies handle investments of Western, of Polish, of German and French companies in China, and also not providing access to their market. So this is one of the reasons why we didn't see a lot of inflow of Chinese capital to the Polish market. We actually have fewer investments than, for example, Slovakia. And one of the reasons for that is political. We are aligned more with the Western powers, and this means also Japan, Korea, the United States. And we pretty much, from that point, are also attractive to Japanese and Korean companies because of political reasons, and also the economic issues are of great interest, but the politics here is also playing a role.
But the key factor is obviously the presence of Poland within the European Union and within the borders of this trading bloc.
Yeah. So our biggest competitive advantage is being part of the European Union and being part of the single market. So we have access to the single market, and we are quite an outpost which has access to the biggest trading market of the world and the biggest consumption. With the rising power of China still, but at this point we have more consumption here of the European middle class, which is of great interest to Japanese corporations.
So we kind of. The painting you are paint here is that there is strong competition between United States and its allies, Japan, Korea, and China and its allies. For example, let's say it openly, Germany. That creates quite a new situation for Poland, and how can we benefit from that?
Well, this could be beneficial. For example, in 2020, we saw an interest in Polish bonds of Japan and Korean companies and investment funds, which also means that they are interested in buying our debt. And it also means that from a more geopolitical way, the presence of Japanese, Korean companies in Poland, instead of, for example, Chinese companies, creates us as a part of an outpost in the Free Seas region for the United States, making it easier to manage this part of the world from Washington. And then being, working on the Chinese issues in the Pacific on a political matter more broadly, because as we saw with the example of Australia, which didn't want to cooperate with Chinese technological companies, the reaction of the Chinese government, although it had a lot of, there were many agreements, the last one from 2015, I guess, between China and Australia. The Chinese blocked access of Australia to its market and introduced new tolls on their wines and many other products, basically prohibiting them from entering China. And this is not how a market-driven force, which is doing business correctly, behaves itself. The United States was a bit like that for the last couple of years, but the Biden administration is going to have it easier.
So you are hoping that the Biden administration will sustain the Polish-American partnership in regards of trade and will keep Poland in this US ally bloc?
Well, from the economic standpoint, it makes a lot of sense, and I'm not scared of anything happening. Politically, it's going to be a bit more difficult, but okay, sorry for the cat. It's going to be a bit more difficult, but I guess the economic and money talks the best, also in Washington.
Yeah. Well, the cat needs to be fed, apparently. Yeah. We have to, and our time is up, by the way. So we have to finish this very interesting conversation with Piotr Arak of Polish Economical Institute. Sir, thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
And that was it for Poland Daily Business. We'll be back tomorrow, same time.